Hey guys! Today I thought I'd start a new tradition for the channel. As you guys know, I love bad movies. In fact, a friend and I watch them almost every night. And for the last few months, we've been tracking these cinematic blunders in this Google Doc. It's a nice way to keep track of important things like the synopsis. You'd be surprised at just how often you can forget what these movies were actually about. Other things like our ratings, the cast, and runtime are also logged, and today I'm going to be using this list to help me arrange my worst movies of 2021. I'll be ranking them by entertainment value, which means the lower a movie ranks on the list, the less I enjoyed it. And the higher up we get, the more interesting or funny bad the movies will be. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll also be giving away some very prestigious awards for categories such as Best Performance, Biggest Cringe, and more. Plus the reveal of the worst movie of 2021 as voted on by you. Gotta be kidding me. As voted on by you, the community. So you're gonna wanna stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you enjoy the content here at Doorskip, be sure to leave this video a like so that the algorithm may bless us. And with that out of the way, let's get started with the list. Coming in at number 10 is The Resort. The Resort is a horror movie. The poster for this movie looks like a minion. I'm still not sure why. Four friends head to a remote island resort to investigate reports of a spooky ghost known only as the half-faced girl. You can probably guess what happens next. We spend most of the movie watching the characters walk to the resort as they go through the motions of your typical teen horror tropes. Like this montage of the young, attractive people having fun. They are so full of life and relatable. It will be so scary when they're haunted by a ghoul later. Ooh. What the fuck? I think the only thing worth pointing out in this entire movie is how bad this scene was. It's a oneer that goes on for almost 4 minutes. Not only does none of the dialogue from this scene matter at all by the end, but it features some of the worst sound mixing I have ever heard.
Seriously, why do you believe?
Like you really want to hear my explanation. Really? You've never done that?
I do. Seriously.
You're not sure which conversation you should be focused on because they're at the same volume and happening simultaneously.
But then the next morning we got a call and she'd passed away.
It's so green.
And they enter another plane.
You're gonna post these instantly.
It's like the audio equivalent of a split diopter shot. It's insane, and it earns this movie our first award of the night for worst sound mix.
What's wrong with Huge?
Yeah, I mean, it was the last one they had. I get it. Swimmer's body is better than meaty, but, you know.
When they finally get to the resort, it's like they forgot why they took the trip out there in the first place. Main character girl wanted to take photos or get video for her ghost blog or something.
This is so perfect for my story. I have to film it.
She takes like maybe 2 pictures and it's just never brought up again. They traveled hundreds of miles, flew over the ocean in a helicopter to this remote island just for 2 pictures on a cell phone? I mean, imagine Jurassic Park, but once they get to the island, everyone takes a picture of some of the plants and then just leaves. When the characters do try to leave, the half-faced girl starts haunting them. The movie almost gets fun here for a second with some sudden over-the-top gore effects, but it's too little too late. All the horror stuff starts with just 15 minutes left in the movie, and it's executed in such a laughable way that it just comes off as desperate. And that's probably the best word to sum up this movie. It is mercifully short, but it feels twice its length at least. You'll probably see the ending coming from a mile away, but still be surprised at just how stupid it actually was. My favorite thing about the movie was probably the skeleton in the background of the girl's hospital room for some reason, though I was disappointed that it never came to life and started flying around.
The boogeyman.
For number 9, I gave the spot to the super messy, incredibly stupid Halloween Kills.
What?
This one makes a list for a few reasons. For one, it felt like a cheap cash grab. The movie is filled with nothing but stuff you know and remember from the previous Halloween films, and the filmmakers relied on that to carry the movie for them. The script was all over the place and had no real structure. I imagine it looked something like this. The previous Halloween wasn't perfect, but because it took the time to reframe Laurie and introduce new ideas into the franchise, it worked a lot more for me. But this movie basically takes all that setup and throws it out the window so that we can just focus on how cool Michael looks. Laurie and her family are given nothing to do in the movie and might as well not even be there. They basically just sit in the hospital the whole time until the script needs them to show up at the perfect place so that the ending can happen. Our characters that we do follow throughout the film are all really stupid, and they also just kind of show up to places so that Michael can stab them easier. There is no real logic to this movie. It felt more like a Friday the 13th movie in how blunt and dumb it was, but without the self-awareness that makes the Friday series so much fun. They were pretty quick to pat themselves on the back for portraying that hate mob, which tells me that they meant for this to be taken seriously.
Now he's turning us into monsters.
If you want to hear more about this dumpster fire, you can check out my full review on the channel.
Oh, such a sweet little soldier!
No surprise here, but Resident Evil makes the list at number 8. What more can I say about Welcome to Raccoon City? Well, a lot, actually. I can probably talk for hours about why I dislike this one. I already gave my initial thoughts on the channel, so you can check that out if you want to hear more. Plus, I plan on doing a deep dive sometime after the Blu-ray comes out. There are just so many reasons I don't like this movie, and it goes well beyond the characters not looking or acting like their game counterparts. I found the filmmaking to be very weak and uninspired. The only resemblance to the games is found in names, locations, and cheap Easter eggs alone. It was just the Anderson movies, but with a fresh coat of things you remember from the games on top to try and hide it. And as a big fan of the games, I felt like I was not the target audience. And as a big fan of movies, I felt like this was made for direct-to-video. Number 7 is The Woman in the Window, a Netflix movie starring Amy Adams, Gary Oldman, and Julianne Moore. Jesus Christ. Julianne Moore, ladies and gentlemen. It was directed by Joe Wright. The Woman in the Window is an alleged thriller that follows an agoraphobic woman played by Amy Adams. She lives alone in New York and begins spying on her new neighbors, only to witness a disturbing act of violence one night. It's kind of like Rear Window, but bad instead. The suspense just never really got there for me. I guess the ending of the movie in the first 2 minutes, and apparently that's not uncommon. The movie is just extremely predictable. It tries really hard to be a Hitchcockian thriller. There are some notes of De Palma and Fincher in there with the cinematography as well, but it all ends up falling on its face. The whole thing felt pretty overacted. At times it felt unintentionally campy and goofy, which is like the only reason it's as high on this list as it is. If you're a fan of the cast or just like a good thriller, you'll probably find this one really redundant and disappointing. Props to the tagline for telling you everything you need to know about this movie though. Number 6 is another Netflix film with a long title called There's Someone Inside Your House. This movie is a play on cancel culture, with the killer exposing people's darkest secrets online before offing them in the traditional slasher style, which gets less and less creative as the movie goes on. Things start off fun enough, but after the first 15 minutes or so, you'll have guessed the killer, and once that murder mystery element is gone, there isn't much left but a predictable and mediocre teen slasher. And worse is that it's one that still feels like it has something to say.
Look at my face!
I wanted something fresh and subversive, but I got another blunt and on-the-nose Netflix production that lacked any subtext. I did a full review on this one if you want to check it out. Alright, we're starting to get to the good stuff now, I promise. Number 5 is a film from MJ Bassett, the director of Silent Hill Revelation. I had so much fun making my review for that movie that I decided to see what other projects the director had, and to my surprise, she had a movie released this year. Endangered Species follows an American family who takes a trip to Kenya. Their safari van is flipped over by an angry cartoon rhino. I can't even get through it without thinking about this thing, it's amazing. It's flipped over by an angry cartoon rhino, leaving them injured and desperate to get back in time to save the mother, who needs insulin or she will die. So there's your ticking clock. This movie is really bad, but it brought me a good amount of joy. The CG animals were always hilarious anytime they showed up. The car chase at the end was so unintentionally funny to me. Anytime they cut to a wide shot, you see just how slow the cars are actually going. It's amazing.
Okay, Zoe, you're doing really well, but can you drive a little faster?
No, I literally can't see shit here!
The family drama, which this movie focuses on heavily, was so stupid that it just broke me. The characters are all pretty unlikable, and I was just cheering for the hyenas to get them, to be honest. MJ Bassett's daughter, Isabel Bassett, helped write this one, and she actually plays the daughter character too. The movie has a pretty heavy-handed message about capitalism, poaching, and toxic men, and it seems pretty obvious where that stems from.
When I was writing Rogue, I definitely kind of wrote Tessa in my voice. Very strong-willed, a little bit edgy.
Isabel also wrote and acted in MJ's Rogue, which released a year earlier and starred Megan Fox. That one's also worth checking out, and I actually enjoyed that one a bit more. Anyway, that brings us to our next award for the video. It was a close race, but the winner for Best CG Rhinos goes to Endangered Species. Congrats, guys. I can't wait for the sequel. These little angels look amazing. Number 4 is Karen. So we've all seen videos of Karens online.
The sisters captured a woman they've never met or even seen harassing them in their own neighborhood more than a week ago.
Do you live here? Why do we feel that we need to be here, like hanging out? Let's call 911. I want to make sure that there's nothing going on here.
This movie answers the question that no one asked. What if this was a movie? The result is Karen. A story about a cartoonishly racist white lady that wants her new neighbors to get out. Karen wants to be a Jordan Peele movie so bad. And I think the best summary of this movie that I saw was that it's what you get when you order a Jordan Peele movie on wish.com.
Tell me about your new neighbors. They're black. Do you mind keeping it down? If you don't comply, I'll tell the manager.
It's a confusing mess of a movie that feels like a terrible SNL skit that just won't end, complete with heavy-handed socio-political commentary.
I'm just saying, why do only black lives matter?
Terrible performances, which make for great performances as far as this list is concerned. Racist cop and Karen were so comically evil that I couldn't help but watch on.
Mike! Stand down, rookie. I've got this.
The way the movie smashes into close-ups is enough to make you do a spit take if you aren't careful. I'm just warning you.
She doesn't like black people.
Well, I'm black.
I know, she doesn't like you either.
If you watch this movie, you'll be asking yourself constantly, is this a joke? Is this supposed to be funny?
Bullet wound. More importantly, we want to send a strong message that we are tired of being disrespected and brutalized and marginalized by certain...
I'm still not sure if it was intended to be, but I laughed a lot anyway. The climax of the movie turns into a schlocky home invasion thriller, and it felt like a total farce at that point. I definitely recommend Karen. Our next movie comes in at number 3 and receives the award for Worst Editing. I'll let that speak for itself.
I don't know whether I should kill you or hire you.
Vanquish stars Ruby Rose, who gives one of the stiffest performances I've seen maybe ever. It's fun to watch her desperately try to act like a human, but the real star here is Morgan Freeman.
What the hell was that?
He shows up to phone in a performance, or rather he does a majority of his performance on the phone. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know the camera was rolling for some of these shots. That's just him thinking about what a mistake it was to take this role. I mean, at least the character's in a wheelchair, which means he never had to actually stand up while making the movie. The movie operates like a glorified fetch quest. Ruby Rose is forced to go pick up 5 bags of money from 5 different locations. Each scene is her traveling to a new location, getting into a fight with bad guys, taking the money, and then returning it to Morgan Freeman, who then reminds her over and over how many quests are remaining. He's like an NPC. After each drop-off, we get a flashback to the scene that we just watched before starting the next mission. It feels like an episodic video game.
5 stops, 5 pickups.
What kind of pickups?
Money. Lots of it.
The movie has a very obvious low-budget feel. There are never any extras anywhere to be found. For example, this nightclub has all of 2 people in it, and I'm pretty sure they work there. It looked like an establishment you'd see on Kitchen Nightmares, where they don't have any customers and need Gordon Ramsay to come in and show them how to run their business.
Obviously not much to manage today. The place is
No, not
empty.
really, yeah.
Is it normally this quiet?
Oh, on Saturdays, yeah.
Damn.
The movie is poorly shot. Most times you can't really tell what is supposed to be happening. Whenever we see the bad guys, they're lit by this ugly yellow-green tinted light that made me feel like I had the flu. This movie ranks this high thanks to the editing, the constant flashbacks, the wooden acting, and the constant holes in logic throughout. Take this scene for example. The bad guys are chasing Ruby Rose through this empty shipping yard. She does the cool movie thing and slides under this semi that just happens to show up. Apparently this massive shipping yard has one truck driver working tonight. I guess everyone else saw the opening of this movie and just called in sick. After she slides under the truck, the bad guys just give up. It's a wide open space and all they'd have to do is go around the truck and continue chasing her, but nah, forget that. Chase is over, boys. She slid under the truck. What are you gonna do? I don't even know if I can recommend this movie because it does get pretty repetitive. But if you've ever done video editing or want to see what happens when you close your eyes to edit a movie, check out Vanquish. Now I know what you're thinking. Where's Bruce Willis? He had 7 movies come out in 2021. Weren't any of them enjoyable? Well, most of them weren't, but there were some that stood out. Coming in at number 2, we have Cosmic Sin, a low-budget space epic about war with aliens or something. It stars Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo, who each disappear for most of the movie and only have a few minutes of actual screen time. Frank Grillo gets separated from the other characters and spends the entire movie floating in space. Bruce also gets separated from the group and is forced into some weird alien dream sex cave that has no bearing on the plot whatsoever. Well, I guess technically it's his body double that we see in there. Out of all the Bruce Willis direct-to-video movies I've seen, and that's a lot, I think this one makes the most use of Bruce Willis's body double. It's everywhere. Almost every scene that Bruce is in features the back of some other bald guy's head at some point. The action in this movie is amazing.
Cover my 6.
The other thing that makes Cosmic Sin special are the costumes. These things almost look cool, but you can tell they're super uncomfortable for the actors. And whoever did the sound mix deserves a trophy for leaving in all the awkward sounds these costumes make. But the resort sound mix was so bad I had to give it to them instead, but man did I want to give it to Cosmic Sin. I am giving Cosmic Sin 2 awards though. First, for having one of the most cringe performances I have ever seen from writer and co-star Corey Large.
Think we have a chance?
I mean, this war has been playing out in nature for 13.8 billion years. When 2 intelligent species collide, one is always going to dominate the other.
Nah, I meant you and me.
The next award goes to Frank Grillo for most touching performance.
You take this weapon and you get yourself back in that fight. Hear me?
Even though it made no sense whatsoever, Frank Grillo, who again has been off screen floating in space for the entire movie, decides to sacrifice himself to stop the alien war from happening or something. As he does so, he's in communication with his son or nephew or young boyfriend from back on Earth. Normally in a movie like this, Frank's character would give some sort of inspirational monologue or tell his son/nephew that he loves them. Instead, we get this. I cried. Cosmic Sin is available on Netflix as of the making of this video, and I think everyone should see it. You can take a shot every time you see Bruce Willis's body double and you'll have a terrible time. Before I reveal the best, worst movie of 2021, I have some more awards to hand out. These movies may not have made the list, but they still deserve a mention. The award for Blood That Looked Fake as Shit goes to Deadlock. It's not rare to see bad blood effects in low-budget movies, but what makes this one special is just how long they hold on each shot of it. It's like they were proud of it or something. It's the only thing in the movie worse than Bruce's performance, and that's saying something. Next up, the award for Biggest Disappointment. This one was actually pretty close. It would be easy to give this one to Resident Evil, but I saw that shit coming from a mile away, so I can't really say I had my expectations shattered or anything. The Matrix was certainly a contender, though I'm not a huge fan of the series or anything, and mostly I just appreciate it for introducing a lot of people to Ghost in the Shell. I was left feeling pretty let down by Resurrections. It started off with an interesting setup that reminded me a lot of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but boy did it become a parody of itself by the end. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Matrix fan, so it didn't hurt that bad. And it pains me to say this, but the winner for Biggest Disappointment has to go to Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho. I was so excited for this film, and while it did have some incredible cinematography and clever in-camera tricks like the mirror shots or the series of Texas switches used in that awesome dance scene, the story was extremely underwhelming. I won't spoil anything in case you're still trying to see this one, but the movie essentially lies to you to justify its twist. And once you get the twist, you realize that a lot of the earlier parts of the movie no longer make any sense. I wanted a tight mystery thriller, but instead I got a pretty hacky one dressed up with some amazing visuals and a killer soundtrack. It's a frustrating movie because it has a lot to love, but I just couldn't get past that shoddy story. Recently, I asked all of you to vote for your worst of 2021, and now it's finally time to check the results. Well, the community has spoken, and no surprise here, the winner is Resident Evil. I was surprised at how close it was though. The Matrix was in first place for a while, but Resident Evil pulled ahead in the last few hours. Congrats. Now it's finally time to give my pick for the worst movie of 2021. Though technically the worst one was probably The Resort, but whatever. My number one pick is another Bruce Willis banger, Survive the Game. This movie was so bad it's good. There are so many things I love. I don't even know where to start. For one, the entire cast collectively wins the award for best performance. Every character in this movie is memorable in one way or another. Bruce Willis is of course completely checked out. By the way he acts, you'd never guess that he was shot in the stomach at the start of the movie. His partner is played by Swin Temmel and is just completely going for it. He might be drunk.
Hell of a day, isn't it, partner?
Then there's the farm guy. His character is supposed to be drunk.
Oh, this is my farm.
This is my farm. My farm. This is my farm. This is my farm, bitches.
The fucking Joker and Harley Quinn are in this movie.
You and me.
You're gonna get swirled, baby.
This guy's dressed like Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver for some fucking reason. The action in this movie is just so embarrassing. You can tell none of it was choreographed.
I got you now. Stop! Drop it!
Run, you idiot!
The dialogue and intro credits clue you in that this was probably made by someone that thinks they're the next Tarantino. The sheriff is in this movie. I call him that because of his breakout role in Out of Death, another Bruce Willis classic released this year. Every time you see this guy, you know you're in for a treat. There's so much more, but I don't want to spoil everything that is funny about this movie. It has all the pitfalls of a bad movie, and it's mwah, chef's kiss. I loved it.
What if somebody gets killed because of product they're selling? What if you die? Doesn't matter.
If you're gonna check out anything from this cursed list, make it this one. And so there you have it. Those are the worst movies I saw in 2021. I'm sure I'll be doing this again next year. After all, Bruce has another 11 movies already in production for 2022. I would like to thank everyone for watching my content. My first year on YouTube has been really fun thanks to you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like as it really helps out my channel, and be sure to subscribe for more. I'm currently watching every Steven Seagal movie with the help of this randomizer we have on the Google Doc. Expect a video on that sometime this year. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.